Hello to all your fine folks out there in synthesizer land. This is episode 27 of Talking Synths. I'm Sam.
I'm Carlos.
And we're from Centaur, Syntaur.com, the place to get all your parts for repairs and mods and customizing, which we'll be talking about today. First of all, this is an odd-numbered episode of Talking Synths. If you want to see the mysterious even numbers, you'll have to subscribe to our Patreon, which you can do for as little as $3 a month. Just go to patreon.com/synthwizards.
And there's two tiers to that, right? The prime numbers and non-prime numbers? Or how does that work?
You can be a synth nerd for $3 a month, I think we call it, or you can be a synth wizard for $10 a month, and that gets you extra stuff like you get a day ahead of time to see all the Synth Wizard episodes, and some. There's a lot of uploads there of wave files, programs for different synthesizers, that
Some
kind of stuff.
Sonic files up on there, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so by becoming the Synth Wizard Synth Wizard level, you get access to those extra goodies.
Nice.
Yeah. So customizing and modding, something near and dear to my heart, and something that probably keeps you up at night.
Yes.
We do a lot of that here at Centaur, and I thought it'd just be cool to kind of go through a lot of the stuff that we've done, because there's some. Well, first of all, there are two different things. Customizing, I generally think of as something to make your synthesizer unique.
Aesthetically.
Yeah, maybe cosmetically or whatever. It doesn't have to be any electronic thing. And then mods would be more in the electronic realm. So you can see this crazy red creation here. This is a Juno 107, which we took a Juno 106 and customized it by special color scheme and all. And we also did some heavy modifications on it. So we'll go through a lot of this as we go through. But when I first started doing synthesizer tinkering and stuff, I found big fun in customizing. And I like customizing. I'm a car guy, and there's kind of two kinds of car guys. Ones that want to take their 66 Corvette and make it exactly to factory specs and that kind of stuff. And then the other kind of guys, which I'm more endeared to, are the ones that say, I'm going to make this my own. I'm going to do the things that I think it would make it really neat and unique. And so I tend to go that way. I don't think things need to be kept entirely pristine unless it's kind of a really rare museum type thing. But some of the first things I did, I found great fun in discovering that the buttons for different Ensoniq keyboards were interchangeable, even though they were different colors and stuff. So it's like, I could take the buttons out of this keyboard and put it in this keyboard and sort of customize it. And that's a really easy thing to do. Oh, except for taking the panel off some Ensoniq things and all the buttons fall out if you don't do it right. So
y'all did that on the SQ80 episode, huh?
That's true.
Yeah.
And we caught a lot of heat for it.
I was going to say, I think I remember reading those comments.
Yeah, I disliked the turquoise button on the SQ80, and so I changed them out for the red burgundy kind of buttons. And I thought it was pretty cool. And then thousands and thousands of people wrote in and said, we love those turquoise buttons, give them back.
So I think that just kind of shows you how polarizing, customizing or modifying a synthesizer can be.
Yeah.
You
might love it. The guy next to you might hate it. But that's okay as long as you love it. It's back to like what we were saying. Make it unique, make it your own, not for everybody, just for you, what you like.
Yeah, I definitely fall into that camp of keep it factory, keep it as stock as possible. But that's also because I've probably seen my fair share of units that have ended up on the bench, and it's like, well, it looks like they wanted to connect a lamp to their ARP, so they put in a house outlet to the back. And the wiring was done very cleanly, so, I mean, that's the plus, but
I think the technical term for this is hack job.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a technical term for it, but I've literally seen wall outlets on the back of synthesizers.
That was a crazy one.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's necessary also. You know, we have
To put an electrical outlet on the back of your
not
synthesizer?
the electrical lamp, but you know, if there's a part that you need and you can't get it anymore,
Exactly.
then what do you do?
Well, that brings me to another one of the simple customizing things that I have on my list. We had a Moog keyboard in the shop where it needed a few knobs. It was missing. Well, you can't get those knobs anymore. So it was easy to go through our inventory and find some other knobs that not only fit and pointed the right direction, but also looked pretty nice on that synthesizer. And so instead of just putting one on there, like, you know, if it was short one knob, we put in one oddball. In that case, we pull them all off, replace them with these other knobs, and it looks clean and different and unique, and it's, you know, it could be a good look.
Yeah.
And it's real easy to do. So, yeah, like you say, sometimes it's necessary, and that's an easy one, and it's reversible.
Yeah,
and this
not
is kind of
non-destructive.
unlike sawing a AC outlet into the back panel of your synthesizer. I am partial to doing kind of customizing and cool things, but I do like it best when it's reversible.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but changing buttons is easy, and I guess you kind of got to have the inside scoop, like we do here, of which buttons are interchangeable. Like we know the buttons from this and Sonic keyboard fit that one or whatever, and so we can change the gray ones to yellow or whatever. So not everyone's going to have that knowledge, but that is something that you might pursue if you're interested in that sort of thing. And you know, too, we've painted buttons. That just reminded me, on this keyboard, the Juno 106 buttons, which tend to fade terribly and discolor over age, we just took some and spray painted them or lacquered them. I'm not sure what Gerald used when he did these, but we just painted them black to fit this motif, and it's seen a lot of use, and there's no wear whatsoever on them, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that now until you pointed it out. Those buttons are not the stock color.
Yeah, indeed.
So I think that's when you know you've done a good job as far as customization, when it blends in and you can't tell.
Yeah.
You know, that's I didn't even notice that the buttons on those were black.
Yeah. Yeah, and so painting them correctly, you know, you got to sort of use best practices to do this if you want it to last and look good. So, another one on my real easy, well, this one isn't real easy, but a good way to customize a synthesizer, and a lot of people have done it on Juno 106s. They'll take these end panels and they'll make wooden end panels. Or a synthesizer that has wooden end panels, like the Pro One. We've also taken, I think they're supposed to be walnut, and we've also made cherry ones, and I can't remember what else, but you know, different kind of woods, and it can give your synthesizer a real unique and pretty look.
Yeah, so that's another one where I guess it really just depends on the person, because I'm obviously more in the camp of keep it stock. When I think of, you know, replacing, you know, wooden end panels, one of the first things that comes to mind is the Poly 6, Korg Poly 6. How it's, you know, that faux wood, that particle board, and just tends to just become extremely dilapidated over time. So in cases like that, I'm like, yeah, put a walnut case on that. It's a pain in the butt to make, and I don't want to make it. I'll let someone else make it.
Yeah, that one is a pain. Because in that case, the Poly 6 doesn't just have end panels that are removable, but the bottom panel and the end panels and the front rail
the bevel of the angle so that it's lined up evenly with the key bed.
Yeah. So all that is technically one piece when you get finished. So that's a lot harder job. But
it does look great.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, I've seen people who've put wooden end panels on the MS-10 and the MS-20, and that I'm not so much a fan of. It looks kind of hokey to me.
Yeah. But then back to your statement of sometimes it's necessary. What if you had a MS-10 like this?
I do have my MS-10 has a crack here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what if it was more than a crack? It was just smashed.
Yeah.
And your only recourse was to make something else.
Yeah,
And
it's a tough one.
yeah, but I'm with you that wouldn't look right on MS Tune
Yeah, it's just too
to my
different.
eyes.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we don't think of the longevity of these instruments, you know, and I think that's something I've seen, you know, within this job is, you know, people that have had to let go of their instruments, you know, because they're older, they don't want their kids to have to deal with them, they can't move them anymore. I had a gentleman who called up here the other day and he was looking at getting a CS80 and was wondering if we could do all these mods to it. And, you know, the kind of my first thing that I told him was, you know, if you do those mods, you're going to significantly hurt the value of it.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing too, is if you're looking at it as an investment, you know, some of these instruments, you know, throughout the 90s weren't really that expensive. We saw that with a lot of the analog polys, and they're going for a lot more now. And and if you're looking to leave that to your wife, to your kids, you know, what is the state of that instrument going to be like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of mods that we scratch our heads and can't even figure out what the mod is exactly, because sometimes the instrument isn't working anymore, or maybe just the mod isn't working anymore, and so you got a switch and 3 holes in the panel and some wires and a dangling resistor, and you wonder.
And the labeling has long faded off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're like, does this instrument not work because of the mod, or is that completely
Exactly.
separate?
Yeah. So you can get into some
Yeah.
troubled zones there.
And we've talked about this before, service manuals being difficult to read, you know, from a certain time period, and then that really leaves you scratching your head.
Yeah. Yeah. So if it's a CS80, just don't. just say
don't.
no.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about mods. I kind of put together a list of things that we've done, and I grouped them as simple, like, okay, here's a good starter project, and then kind of intermediate, and then the really difficult ones. The simple ones, you kind of turned me on to this a few episodes ago, and I called it a calibration mod.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's say you have a synth that has a pretty mild resonance in it. You can probably go in there and get
Turn
the
the
service
trim on.
manual and see what the calibration procedure is for the filter, and you could probably boost that resonance and make it real gnarly or edgy or, you know, a lot more aggressive sounding.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to do. All it takes is a screwdriver and a service manual.
And easily reversible.
Yeah, exactly, yes. And another one I've seen is, I think it was maybe like a Moog Rogue or something. I can't remember the exact synth, but someone changed the calibration tuning to where it was an octave lower. And they could get some really deep bass stuff, and they weren't really using it for a lead synth or anything like that.
Yeah.
So they just made it a real deep, ballsy bass synthesizer.
Yeah, the MG1, you can actually tune the polyphony on it, the divide down portion. Yeah, you can tune that independently. So if you wanted to go, you know, if you wanted to transpose that and get, like you're saying, lower tones, totally doable.
Go an octave down.
Yeah.
Or go a few steps down and play in 2 keys at once.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't do that. So that's one simple one. The MG1, you can easily change like a resistor value on the output and get a lot hotter.
Yeah,
output
because
to
the MG1, because it was under the Radio Shack brand or Realistic, it was made to be played through home theater systems. So it has RCA outputs would tend to be a bit, I think it's like minus 10 dB.
I don't think there were home theater systems back then.
Yeah.
It was just through the hi-fi,
Yeah, through the hi-fi.
through the stereo.
But yeah, it's literally the resistor that's right next to the volume potentiometer, and you cut it out. You don't even have to desolder it. You just take it out of the circuit.
All right.
Yeah, and then it's
Pair of wire snips and you're done.
and you're done, and totally reversible.
Yeah, exactly. Another one that we did on this Juno 107, the Juno 106s use a 2-prong power cord that's, you know, a little bit hard to find. I mean, we sell them here, but if you lose yours, you can't go down to Walmart and buy one. You might have to order it from us or somewhere else. And so a real easy mod is to remove the socket where that cable plugs in And for just what, a few dollars, I can't remember what, we sell the 3-prong grounded socket that you could put in there, and then you can use a standard IEC cable, which all computers and a lot of appliances and most keyboards use. And so then it's easy to find another cable if you lose yours. So that's a quick and easy mod. And then there's another one we talked about doing on a project we're working on that you brought up. That's a button that just breaks the audio when you press the button.
Yeah, like
So
a kill switch.
Yeah. So
Or
it's
stutter.
it could be a stutter. So it's basically a momentary switch that's on, making contact until you press the button, and then it breaks the contact, and you just route the audio through that before it goes to the jack. And so you could play a chord and just sit there and play the button and break it to the beat of the music or something. So, so that's kind of a cool mod, and should be real easy to do. That one you'll probably want to drill a hole in something and mount that switch, so maybe not quite as reversible. But on the keyboard we're doing that in, it has a plastic bender panel right here, and so that's where we're mounting it. And so if it ever did need to be reversed, we just need to replace that plastic panel rather than the whole front panel of the synth. So,
Or we do also sell hole plugs.
yeah,
Maybe just
true.
Pop one in there.
Yeah. I'm just going down my list.
Yeah.
If you want to jump in with anything.
I was going to say the clear benders.
Oh yeah, that's true. There's
that's
a lot of mods on this thing. So yeah, we replaced the black plastic bender with a clear bender, and in this instance, we mounted LEDs in there to light that bender. So that's not quite as easy if you wanna make that bender lighted. But yeah, that's a cool thing. It looks nice in the dark. So let's get into some more intermediate level mods now. On this, we have a mod that there's a jack here that we've labeled audio input, and it feeds whatever you send in through the chorus of the Juno 106, which is a really sweet sounding chorus. And in the episode, Synth Wizards episode 2, where we built one of these, it was actually a different one that was more blue purple looking. But we demonstrate Eddie's playing a guitar and routing it through the chorus, and it's really, really nice sounding on that. And a lot of synths have an audio input where you can send something through the filter. A lot of them don't. And if yours doesn't, it's not too hard to find on the schematic where that input signal should jump into the circuit, and then you can use the synth's filter to be basically an outboard effect.
Now, usually you'll have to trigger the envelope for that to make use of the filter.
Yeah, it depends on the synthesizers, but yeah, sometimes you might actually have to play a key on the synthesizer to do this kind of stuff. But a lot of times, if you just a lot of times you won't have to. It depends on the synth, but it's pretty cool to be able to sweep a resonant filter with the mix of your song going through it or something like that. So
we got the ARP sub-oscillator kits.
Let's see. I have that one under advanced.
Under advanced? All right.
So don't say that yet. What else do I have here? One cool one we did on the SQ80 episode. It's a digital. Well, no, it's a hybrid synth. It's got some digital stuff in it, and so the operating system is on an EEPROM chip, and so we have a chip burner reader here, and so we can stick an EEPROM chip on there, and then it'll display on the computer all the code for what's on that chip. And so what I did on that is I found in the code where it would show the message that came up for certain things. Like when you're booting up, it's going to say Ensoniq SQ80 or whatever. So once you find that, you can go in and change it. So you could make it boot up and say Bob's SQ80 or something like that. And we just had fun changing a few of those messages, just something to make it unique. Now, you got to be careful there, because if you change the wrong thing, you're changing the operating system code, and you don't want to get into that mess. So that's kind of a fun thing. And then the other thing I thought I'd bring up at this point is a lot of people make mods that you basically can drop in. Kiwi Technics, for instance, for the Korg Poly 6. They make a replacement circuit board that drops in to replace the one that gets so battery damaged. And by doing that, you can also add MIDI to your Poly 6. You can also add a lot more programs. And
they also have an updated power supply for that.
Yeah,
correct?
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't technically, well, I guess it is a mod because you're changing it, but it doesn't make it do anything different other than work better. But yeah, so the point is that there are manufacturers out there that make kits that you can just drop in. Well, MIDI kits for anything that doesn't have MIDI.
What about the voltage regulator on the Fismo?
That is, would you call that a mod, or would you just call that future-proofing?
Future-proofing?
But yeah, on the Ensoniq Fismo, there's a voltage regulator that's kind of driven to the limits, and after a point, it says, that's it, I'm retiring.
Done.
And most synthesizers you don't have to replace voltage regulators on through normal course of business, but that one tends to go out a little more often, or go out sooner than it should. And so yeah, there's a higher amperage voltage regulator that you can then just replace that with, and it brings your Fismo back to life.
Nice.
Any other ones you got in mind for intermediate kind of stuff?
Not intermediate. Yeah, I think we've about covered the intermediate.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, intermediate, I would think maybe, because this is something people call up here a bit, but replacing their unweighted keys with weighted keys.
That's a good one.
Yeah, as long as the keys fit, obviously, as long as they're the same make.
And the way we classify keys here at Centaur, like the Juno 106, for instance, uses a key that we call a K28U, I think, and that U means unweighted. And there's also a K28W key, which means weighted. And so when you look at our keys and it says U or W, that means weighted or unweighted. And so what that really means too is that those keys are identical except for the weights. So you can swap them around. And yeah, we've had people that have weighted keys and want more of a lighter touch. And that applies to the key springs also. There's some Kurzweil keyboards, PC3X, I think, or PC3, where I think it has a pretty stiff action because it's got some pretty healthy key springs in there. And so people like to replace those out with a lighter touch. We actually sell a kit for that on our site.
So I had an interesting call today. I had a gentleman who called, who was looking for some replacement keys for his new, I think it was like a Roland Juno DS61. So a newer Roland digital synthesizer. And he says, I'm replacing the Ds, the Gs, and the As. I go, okay, so how many of each would you need? He says, just give me 15 As. I was like, oh, dude.
That's a really long keyboard, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, well, sir, I think those are different keys. If you're replacing the Ds, the Gs, and the As, then you should probably know how much you need of each. He says, no, the way I'm doing it, they're all going to be interchangeable. I'm just going to use As.
He's making one of those wacky keyboards. Huh?
Yeah. So I guess it's 6 white keys and 6 black keys. And I'm not exactly sure how they space it, but it's rearranging the equal temperament on the keyboard. And he said he'd done it with some success before on the DX7, but his DX7 has since failed. So now he wants to try it on his Roland Juno DS. But he also wanted to know if I could tell him if that would work. And the unfortunate thing is I can't guarantee.
Yeah.
Anytime, for anyone who calls up here, anytime that you are asking to take something outside of manufacturer's spec, I don't think we can really guarantee that it's going to work, because my main concern there would be, obviously, are the tabs going to line up in the back and the front where they mount, and then is that going to hit the contact?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because they're spaced different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but what's the name for, does anyone know what the name for that type of keyboard is? Where it just alternates
Yeah, I don't.
sharp and or white and black.
Yeah, I've had people ask about that before
Yeah.
too. So.
Interesting concept.
Yeah. Whew, good luck with it.
Yeah.
Well, a few more advanced mods on the on the Jupiter 4 episode we did. We actually installed an aftertouch strip under the keypad and then routed that aftertouch to where it would add vibrato to certain notes. So that not only took a lot of mechanical doing, and you have to have the right, you have to have a keypad that's gonna sort of adapt to that. We had to make some pieces, and then we had to figure out the wiring. Where do you send that aftertouch signal and have it make some aftertouch, have it apply vibrato in that instance. But that's certainly a doable thing. And on a keyboard, on an older keyboard like that doesn't have it, I really liked it. And then, like you mentioned, the sub-oscillators we added to the ARP Odyssey. And we actually built a circuit board for that, which we sell as a product. And that really fattens up the sound. And that's a cool project, too. And then wanted to play the Juno 107. The main feature of it is something that we call the patch sweep. And on the Juno 106, you can plug in a pedal, and when you hit the pedal, it advances to the next patch in any bank. And so you can go through the 8 programs or patches in a bank with that pedal. And so what we did is we made a circuit board that basically hits that pedal at a certain interval. And there's we mounted a slide pot here to control the rate of that. And so the patch sweep basically cycles through the 8 programs in any bank. And it's a really cool effect. I'll play some of it here. Change the speed. So
maybe play it with it off, just so you can get an idea of the difference.
Well, when it's off, this is program 41. So it's just a regular program.
Yeah.
But when you turn it on, it's going 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 41, 42. It's just cycling through them that way. So it's really fun to play with, and it just brings up random wave sequencing kind of sounds that way. And no, we can't sync that sweep to the oscillator or to LFO.
That's when you were setting it up.
MIDI.
I was like, can we put CV in there? Drill a hole and put a little patch cable.
Make it sync to MIDI clock or something. Yeah. And so that's kind of the range of stuff. This was a really complicated mod to do that, because we had to mount this slide pot, which means you got to saw into the circuit board or saw into the metal panel to make it mount. And then that slide pot actually mounts onto the jack board here, and it gets really complicated in addition to making the circuit that does all this. So. And you have an MS-10 there, and it's got some mods.
Yeah, so this was, another interesting. So when I got this MS-10, I actually thought that this was factory. If you can see, it's got this switch here. And then I realized, that hole on the side of it, and you can see they actually attempted to drill a hole over here, but I guess that didn't work out for them. And, as far as I can figure, it's a headphone jack, because the MS-10 didn't come with a headphone out. But I haven't got this guy running yet, so once I do, I'll be able to tell if that's what it is,
Yeah.
But so it's just like I said, I'm kind of at odds with it.
Yeah.
Because then, I don't know, I just like things factory. That's such a terrible thing. But, I think going back to beginning, synthesizers from the time they were a commercial product, I think modding does have pretty deep historical roots in it.
Oh, that's true.
If you look at the OctaveCat, if you look at the service manual, the last like 3 pages are all mods that are offered by the factory.
Ah.
And it's like, they're like line items. If you wanted to do this, and we'll do this, just send it to us. And
That's cool.
for $5.99, we'll add this.
Yeah. And how many mini Moogs have we seen that have the keypad removed and people are playing them remotely or whatever?
Yeah.
So yeah, it does go back a long way.
Yeah, and that's, I think it's just synthesizers, you have to kind of have the heart of a tinkerer, you know?
And when those people probably started out with modular synths, and then they get something that's all self-contained, and it's like, well, I want to make it do this, and so a couple extra holes and a little wire and some chewing gum, we can do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That if y'all never seen any pictures of the sack butt, I would Google sack butt keyboard or synthesizer and look at a picture of that, and that'll kind of show you the ingenuity of the type of people that are into keyboards, and synthesizers.
Yeah. Well, this has been a fun topic, and I hope we don't get into trouble for it with people calling in saying, my CS80 no longer works because I attempted to... All right, so yeah, just be careful and don't touch any bare electric leads, and use some common sense, but you can really do some cool easy things all the way up to really advanced stuff, and it's a lot of fun.
And I would say, definitely try making use of the tools that you have, and if you're not getting the results that you want, then maybe you don't have the right tool for the job.
What if you only have a circular saw?
Yeah, we've talked about this before, trying to fit a square peg into a circle or the other way.
Into a round hole,
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, there's plenty of stuff you can do without getting into too much trouble. So enjoy, have fun, and let us know what you come up with, or let us know other cool mods that we haven't talked about. Maybe we can do another episode on.
Yeah.
And until then, we will modulate.
Modulator.